In what seemed like a gradual opening of can of worms, a former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, who had since risen against the government of the day yesterday, said he knew those who paid to be made ministers under President Bola Tinubu. When asked if Tinubu betrayed him, El-Rufai said, and I quote, "No, he betrayed himself," end of quote. On whether he had regrets supporting Tinubu to becoming president, he said, "Well, I can't say I regretted, but I am disappointed." El-Rufai, who claimed never to have lobbied for any position, however, said he got the blessings and prayers of former President Muhammadu Buhari before his defection from the All Progressives Congress APC to the Social Democratic Party SDP. Perhaps sensing some mischief, Buhari had immediately clarified that he remained a loyal member of the ruling APC, adding that he would not work against the party that gave him the opportunity to become president. All right, El-Rufai in the news, your almost namesake. he seems to be in the news, Dr. Bati. And of course, this morning he had an interview with the House of Service of the BBC, and he had revealed a few things. As I started, it is the beginning of the opening of cans of worms. Your take on this story?
Okay. Politicians will say a lot of things. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is not the same Nasir El-Rufai that was boldly supporting a Muslim ticket leading up to the elections. It's not the same Nasir El-Rufai that was part of those that took the central bank to court over the Naira policy. Is it not Nasir El-Rufai that casted, many aspersions against Peter Obi? Today, Nasir El-Rufai's son is now saying, Peter Obi is not such a bad person. Now, everybody's gravitating towards the SDP. Is this not the same Nasir El-Rufai that said at some point he was never going to leave the APC? So he's gone through how many parties now? From the PDP to CPC to APC, now SDP. Anyway, he's sworn that he's never going to go back to the PDP, but the PDP started all of this for him. But in all of those things, one thing is consistent. There's a P in all of those parties. You do the math and tell me what the P is, watching me this morning. I don't take politicians seriously. I'm happy that President Muhammadu Buhari has come to clarify what he said, that yes, he might have given him his blessings as he claimed, but he's going to support his own political party till the end. Secondly, all of this is somebody that feels hurt. He feels he worked for President Tinubu, and President Tinubu didn't pay him back. So when they say, does he feel betrayed? He said, no, he feels betrayed. Because if he doesn't feel betrayed, he will stop crying about this ministerial thing. El-Rufai has been crying about this ministerial thing.
All right.
He's been wailing. He's been crying. He's been jackburrowing about this ministerial thing. So it's time for him to cease the cry.
All right.
And that's why, as part of the crying and the wailing and the jackburrowing, he's saying he knows people that paid for ministerial position. They got to be ministers. You did not get to be ministers.
You didn't get to be ministers.
Go and face your political struggle with the SDP.
All right, Dr. Bati, you're taking.
Okay, a number of issues here. I already wrote an extended essay on this subject on Tuesday, back page column, in this day. So whatever I say is an additional comment, since I already wrote a long essay. And what are those additional comments? It's as follows. One, El-Rufai, Nasir El-Rufai, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, is saying that he knows those who paid to be ministers. I would like him to name those persons who paid to be ministers, because it's music to our ears as Nigerians, we long-suffering Nigerians, that people pay to become ministers of the Federal Republic. This is a point we have often made, that look, when people are appointed to positions, the leadership recruitment process should be based on meritocracy, should be based on ability. It should not be based on cash. Now, if they paid to be ministers, who gave money to whom? Who collected the money? Because this is a direct accusation, an assault on the integrity of President Tinubu personally, and also an assault on the integrity of all the serving members of the Federal Cabinet of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So I expect the ministers to speak up I expect also President Tinubu to tell us whether indeed it is a norm for people to pay to become federal ministers. That is one point. The second point is that Nasir El-Rufai is now crying, woof, 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 woof. This is the same man who 3 years ago, on the pages of Leadership newspaper, you can Google it, he says that he will remain in APC till he dies.
Yes, he said so.
That story is there.
Yes.
Now, what was his argument at that time? He said he was one of the 37 original members that formed the APC. The APC, you know, of course, is a special purpose vehicle. At the time it was created in 2013, 2014, bringing together, you know, the aggrieved members of the PDP who call themselves New PDP, led by Senator Bukola Saraki, the CPC, the ACN, led by President Tinubu, some faction of the AMPP. They all came together, and their mission at that time was to remove President Jonathan from power. It's this nemesis, you know, that we're seeing in terms of the disemboweling of the All Progressives Congress. That's the second point. The third point is that Malam El-Rufai is saying that he didn't beg for the position. I think he's right on that score, because President Tinubu promised him publicly at an event in Kaduna. He said at that time that he wanted to go for further studies abroad, right? And the president said, you are going nowhere, I'm going to make you a minister. The only man who was so honored publicly. And then at the end of the day, you know, they came and said security reports did not favor him. His own friend and former partner and brother and colleague is a national security advisor. So how did under Malam Nuhu Ribadu's watch, they arrived at the conclusion that Nasir El-Rufai is a risk, a security risk to Nigeria? I think fair is fair. On that score, he has every reason to be aggrieved, to be angry. My next point is about this coalition, this toing and froing. He has been meeting with all kinds of disgruntled politicians here, either in Lagos or in other places. I do not think that this idea of a grand coalition that they are putting together, I don't think is likely to work. Again, because of Malam El-Rufai's own limitations, and also because of the ambitions of all these parties who say they want to take over power from President Tinubu. They should know that President Tinubu is an old fox in this game. Somebody came on this program and called him master of the game. He's not going to fold his arms and allow people to just push him out of power. Well, all of us must be realistic in that regard. But I think that the drama, the disemboweling, the revelations are useful for the political education of many Nigerians who just listen to the sensation and do not know anything beyond the headlines.
All right, just a few more words to add to this, and that is that he actually said, it's the party like food. If it's like food, that he actually said that to the APC. And when he was asked that, was he afraid of being expelled by the party, and was that a motivation for him leaving the party to join the SDP, he actually rejoined, saying, actually, expulsion would have been better. It would have saved him the headache of this journey he's had to make. And that shows the deep-seated disgruntlement of Malam Nasir El-Rufai with the APC. He's continued to maintain that the reason for his grouse is largely because the APC has moved away from its progressive ideology and is now more focused on, you know, he talks about it, personal gain, personal, favors, and the fact that people are rewarded just, boy no boy, someone knows somebody, and that those who actually worked for the party and are being maligned, are forgotten, are left behind, and that's one of his biggest grounds. He took us down memory lane with that interview, talking about the reasons why he supported the current president, one of which was that some Muslims from the Southwest had come to him to say that they felt like they had been sidelined in the grand scheme of things when it came to leadership in Nigeria. The second part of it being that, in the spirit of fairness, the last election ought to have been zoned to the South, and so he had to support the president. But following that, things have then gone downhill, of course, with that infamous pulling out of his name from the ministerial screening as a result of what had been cited as security reports, which, by the way, we haven't really heard much about that since then. But the issue now, of course, as we look forward to 2027, even though some people had opined that it's too early to begin to talk about 2027, but I think with what's playing out in the political space in Nigeria currently, the conversation is certainly rife. We're seeing a number of political figures making political moves and publicly declaring as to which party or what party they're going to align with. SDP seems to be a leader in this, and you can understand why. The PDP is in disarray currently, and they're trying to get their acts together, so it doesn't look very appealing. And then the PDP within itself have some strong people who I'm not sure how easy it would be to relinquish their ambition to becoming presidential candidates of the party. The Labour Party on its own is also currently facing internal disputes, and so it's not very attractive. And of course, they also had their leading presidential candidates in the last election. And so these figures who are perhaps looking for the top job in 2027 are looking away to these other parties, and SDP is becoming a lot more attractive. I think it's important to note that he mentioned that he did have some godfathers, but he would not want to mention their names. So one principal person that he speaks to before making any critical political decision is former President Muhammadu Buhari. That also speaks to the lingering influence of the former president, especially in the north, and the fact that he's still being consulted. He said he's a statesman now. He's no longer a politician, and so he will just leave. But he has affirmed his role as an APC, bona fide APC member. He also talked about Pastor Tunde Bakari. And that's a name that perhaps we should maybe look at come 2027. Is he going to play any role in the political activities of 2027? Because he had said it was actually Pastor Tunde Bakari who dragged him or who brought him into the APC at the time. So what role would he play in 2027? Does this make the SDP a stronger party? What does this mean for opposition in Nigeria and their challenge to the APC come 2027? And this is what a number of people have said, that if this coalition doesn't work as a result of the personal ambitions of the individuals involved, it might just again pave a smooth sailing ride to Aso Rock for the next 4 years, for a second term for the APC. Because when these parties are in disarray, in terms of all these opposition parties, it only makes it stronger for the APC to have a clear, a smooth ride come 2027. So they need to get their acts together. Perhaps people have to put their personal ambitions aside in the interest of Nigeria and the people of Nigeria. But I laugh at that because we all know what that is at the end of the day. A lot of these leaders, unfortunately, put themselves first ahead of nation building. So let's see how that plays out. Could this be perhaps an indication that the APC is about to get another smoother journey into the Aso Rock as a result of the political shenanigans happening in all these other opposition parties? Well, we watch. Let's move on to our next story this morning. And one of Nigeria's leading financial institutions, Access Bank PLC, has successfully hosted the inaugural Africa Trade Conference in Cape Town, South Africa, to boost intra-Africa trade on the continent. The theme of the event, Empowering Africa Through Trade, Innovation and Sustainable Growth, was well attended by policymakers, business executives and industry stakeholders. Arise business producer Lillian Jijingi Aguda brings you highlights from the event.
Africa's population is projected to surge to 2.5 billion by 2050 from 1.2 billion. Despite the high population and vast resources, intra-Africa trade remains low. To bridge this gap, Access Bank has hosted this trade conference to build resilient African economies through deeper regional collaboration and enhance financial and trade infrastructure. Delivering the opening remarks, Access Bank's Managing Director, Roosevelt Ogbonna, set the tone for discussions by highlighting the critical barriers hindering trade across Africa.
Many businesses on the continent struggle to find capital or access to capital and the right structure of capital. And when they do find it, the cost of capital is so significant that it makes it unbelievably expensive for them to be able to raise capital and still do business competitively. That has to change. We have to create a financial services sector that empowers businesses, a financial services sector that makes it easier and seamless for businesses to be able to access capital, to be able to invest in growth, invest in innovation, and of course, the muscle they need to expand beyond their local boundaries. For that to happen, it is clear that we need to create a network of Africa financial giants who are willing to create homegrown solutions to support the continent in achieving the objectives that we've set for ourselves.
Fully implementing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is vital in order to unlock its immense benefits across the continent.
We can, however, build our own trade routes, supply chain networks, build our own capacity to support food security in Africa, and build our own industrial development. All of that will require that the private sector, the public sector, and governments that will work together to implement the AfCFTA, which is the only rule book that we have that will enable us to navigate the difficult times that lie ahead.
At every corner were conversations and agreements that underscored the importance of financing mechanisms that support African businesses in their expansion across borders.
PAPS, which is now fully operational in 16 countries covering East, West, and North and South Africa. The Pan-African Payment and Settlement System now has transaction volumes that are more than doubling on a month-to-month basis, providing proof of the felt need for this service that will save the continent $5 billion in costs and cost transfer time within Africa from days to seconds. A PAPS debit and credit card has also been launched, which will enable holders to spend their national currencies anywhere they travel in Africa.
Without a doubt, Pan-African banks are playing a pivotal role in enhancing financial systems, enabling cross-border transactions, and fostering economic integration.
So I think banks as actors in Angola and other African markets, they need to build up trust with their counterparties, either the confirmation banks, with the international players. And that ultimately starts with something as simple as your compliance system, the ability to create comfort with your international stakeholders that you're doing the right things.
At Access Bank UK Limited, we are committed to obviously doing whatever we can as part of our mandate to try to remove these barriers and indeed increase the velocity of capital across the African markets where we are participating. Just by way of giving a bit of background, we are a wholly owned subsidiary of Access Bank PLC, organizers of this event. They are our parents, but we have, I believe, come of age in terms of the support the parents has provided to us. And today, the bank has grown across all indices and very much within touching distance of a challenger bank status in the UK. Now, as part of what we do is to support the flow of capital on trade finance, which is an area we understand very well. It's within our DNA.
As the Access Bank Africa Trade Conference draws to a close, one thing is clear. Despite the global uncertainties in the world, true to its name, Access is ready to support trade finance, fostering regional integration, and championing policies that create an enabling environment for businesses across Africa. Lilian Jijinge Aguda, Arise News.
Well, congratulations to Access Bank and Access Holdings.